And we're back talking with Doyle, with State Representative Doyle Heffley. As always, we have the indomitable Hunter Kipe and Chuck Nichols on the ones and twos. Doyle, what are we talking about today?
Well, interesting. The Senate recently passed a bill talking about cell phone use in schools. And I tell you, it's really gotten a lot of attention, got national attention. We've got a lot of calls on it in our office, and I thought it'd be maybe good to talk about this topic here and talking with Doyle.
I think this is a good opportunity to really talk about how this legislation really correlates with the mental health challenges and behaviors with young adults in Pennsylvania and throughout the nation. Mm-hmm. I mean, the statistics prove that the rates of depression among teens have increased around 150%. And me personally, suicide rates for girls ages 10 through 14 rose 131%. I grew up in that time period, and it's crazy to think that it's constantly increasing over the years.
And you look at it, and really between the 2010 and 2015, we went through about a 23% cell phone use to over 73, close to 75% cell phone use. And a lot of young people are on their cell phones nonstop. Yeah. I mean, more than 8 hours a day. If you think about timing, an 8-hour workday, these young people are on their cell phones more than people that go to work. I mean, they're putting in 50 or 60 or if not more hours on that. And what we're really seeing is a correlation between, if you want to say, social media addiction, which is a real thing. There's a lot of lawsuits now. There's a lot of links being shown in different studies between social media addiction and behavioral health issues, but also attention in the classroom. So this legislation would really address in the classroom, and the legislation. And I looked at it. It's an opt-in. It's not a mandate. So we're not mandating that every school has to follow this. It's an opt-in, and what it would do is provide like safe lock bags where cell phones could be stored during the class. So if a student goes into that classroom in the school, they would put their phone in there and then pick it up maybe during their lunch hour. They can have their phone again, or so that when they're in the classroom, their attention is on learning. They're not being distracted. Another thing that's really big on social media, but just the texting and the cell phones, is bullying. Yeah. It used to be maybe you had a class or two, or maybe you had a homeroom with somebody who maybe you didn't care for or was a bully. But now, if that person has your cell phone number, it's just nonstop all day going back and forth, and it's really distracting. It's really weighing on young people.
Yeah, you would be able to walk away from them, but now you just can't get away from them. They're always confronting you in some way. Yeah. But this legislation, when you talk about how it's in bags, is there going to be a way that schools can monitor this to see if there's any progression, to see if the bullying rates and mental health would go down, so to speak, in a school district? So
this legislation, I want to commend Senator Allman. I don't want to speak because he does a great job explaining it himself. But I actually have some concerns with this as well, because I've seen it. I mean, you see it when you go to the restaurant, when you're out in public, when you're in a store, anything, or sitting at a stoplight, look at the person next to you, and they're not texting. They're actually on social media. And TikTok, for example, we had a show talking about some of the dangers of TikTok and the privacy concerns. But with that, these companies have designed algorithms, or AI, so they have to use artificial intelligence to sell you what they really want is impressions. They want people to be looking at their phones. And they're great at it, because you pick up your phone and you look at it, and it's right what you want to see.
Oh yeah,
and it sucks you in, and we all fall for that. So now you're looking at, you said about suicide rates for young girls, ages 10 to 14, but there's been a tripled rate in suicides among teenagers 10 to 14 years old since 2007 to 2021, and that's a direct correlation. Now, add on top of that, we had a pandemic, and we had the shutdowns, and those are all stressful things as well. But these trends really started before. A few years ago, we worked on the opioid task force, and we were identifying overprescribing pain pills that are very addictive to young people was a terrible idea. And we lost hundreds of thousands of young Americans to addiction and to overdoses. And now we're losing so many children and young adults to suicide. Suicide rates are really going up in this country, and then couple that with addiction. And a lot of times if you develop a behavioral health issue or you're depressed or maybe have anxiety from being on social media too much, that can correlate into addiction and other things. So as a chairman of the Human Service Committee, there's definitely correlations. And I think a lot of it, trying to create a safe space in schools for kids to learn is one step in the right direction, because cell phones and social media, it's not going away.
No.
Right? But how can we maybe better manage and help our children to better manage all this new information? Because at the tips of our fingertips, we have more knowledge and power than any generation ever. I used to love to watch Star Trek as a kid. They would hit the little button on their shirt, and they would talk to the ship or talk to somebody else. And now, when you're driving down the road, all you have to do is say, "Call Hunter." And it calls you. So we are close to being there. And how we manage that is going to be critical. And I think this legislation helps at least the in-classroom learning and the students in the classroom to have a safe space where they can learn.
No, it definitely sounds like we're in the right direction. So last week, I believe it was passed in the Senate. Now it was taken to the House and was referred to the Education Committee, correct?
Yes.
So what would happen if the House does pass it and it goes to Governor Shapiro and he signs it into law? When would this take into effect?
Okay, so one thing, it would be an opt-in. So school districts, and a lot of school districts are currently contemplating some kind of either a cell phone ban or a way to manage the cell phone use. So this would provide a grant program for school districts so they could purchase these lock boxes or bags to put children's cell phones in when they get to school or in that classroom, however they manage to do it. And then it would set up a program for PCCD to work with the schools to track the data over the next 2 years to see what impact, if any, this is having, to make sure that we're tracking, is this a solution or is this just adding more to the complexities of what children are dealing with?
To play devil's advocate here, I grew up in this time frame.
Yeah, you're a few years younger than me, Hunter.
Yes, I was in high school maybe 10 years ago. But I can see the pros and cons. I'll be the first one to admit, of course I had my cell phone in my purse. And if something major happened in school, I was texting my parents first thing. But I also grew up in the time period where, yes, technology was advanced, but it's not as advanced as it was today. If I didn't have proper service in school, my text messages didn't go through. I wasn't able to scroll Facebook, or we didn't have TikTok then. I wasn't able to have the opportunity to scroll on social media like students are able to today. So I do see the pros and cons of this, and I know my parents, I'm an only child, and they track my every movement now. So I imagine if I were in school now, they would still make sure that I was in school and doing what I needed to do. And I can see how some parents also want to make sure that their students and children are okay.
Yeah, and I think as a parent, and my daughters grew up in your generation, and yeah, it is different as a parent. It is nice. You want to know where your children are, especially when we hear some of the things that go on in school. If your child needs to get in touch with you, so I think that's part of the balance and why we have to have this continuing, ongoing conversation. Yeah. But when you look at the cold hard, the numbers, and you're not making them up. Depression rates increased to 150%. Even suicide rates from 2007 to 2021 amongst 10 to 14-year-olds tripling. Yeah. And you say, what is the common denominator in that? And a lot of it is social media and cell phone usage, and how do we better handle that, and how do we better cope with it?
No, and even still, I mean, mental health is a big concern, but also our test scores in math, science, reading, they are significantly declining. I believe in the last 25 years, we are seeing a significant decrease. We have more distractions than ever before, so that's something to take in effect too. Yeah,
as a generation, have more information at the tips of our fingers than ever before, but we're seeing these decreases in that. And yeah, if you're in the classroom and you're distracted, I remember when I was in grade school, I used to keep those little Matchbox cars in my, and they were a distraction. I think some of my grade school teachers might still have some of those cars that they confiscated from me over the years. But if I would have had a cell phone then, you could sit there and watch a movie if you were discreet enough about it. So I think it's just, this is a new opportunity, right? Or challenge, opportunity, however you want to look at it, for our generation. And how do we improve the lives of younger people and give them the tools they need going forward?